How will Mike Macdonald respond to his first taste of adversity in Seattle? What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Happy Monday. Didn't upload any videos or do any streams yesterday. Just took a break from content creation, which that almost never happens during the season, believe me. And under normal circumstances, it probably wouldn't have. Obviously, the team didn't play yesterday. They had a little bit of extra time off because of the Thursday game. Normally, I would have come up with something to say, but right now, I felt like it was a good time and it would be a good idea to take a break and decompress a little bit because the team had just kind of hit a rock bottom moment, right? You're at home, it's primetime football, Thursday night, you're playing a heated division rival, opportunity to really just propel yourself forward and push your most important division rival back in the process. And I know the score was kind of close, but I don't think you could find like five or more Seahawks that played well in that game. And that's really hard to have anything positive to say about, right? There's 53 players on this team. Almost 50 of them are active for game day, and you don't even know if you can find 5 of them that played well. So I just didn't feel the need to continue to hammer it more than I already had over the previous couple days. And it was just a good opportunity to cool off a little bit. I wanted to watch other teams play football. So I was like, okay, let's take a decompression break from any kind of video making on Sunday. So we're back, though. We got a game in less than a week, and we got to get back on the horse, and we got to figure this out. And, I mean, it's a very interesting time for the Seahawks, right? It's a very interesting moment in this new coaching staff's tenure because Mike Macdonald is currently dealing with something that he has not had to deal with ever before as a head coach because he's only been a head coach for, what, not even 9 months? Yeah, right around 9 months he's been a head coach. And for the first time ever, he has to deal with actual adversity. He has to actually deal with a team that has stumbled pretty dramatically. And as of this moment, I think you could argue that nothing is going well. Now, that's obviously looking at a small sample size. There are elements to this team that are big picture on the season doing well. But I think that if you were to take a snapshot of this moment, post 49ers game, you can't really find anything that is really working. That that last game against the Niners, I mean, that game, the way that game went, that was kind of the stuff that I think got Pete Carroll, the old head coach, pushed out of here, right? You saw the same things that ultimately led to Carroll's ouster. The team not showing up for important games, the team not showing up for rivalry games, the team not showing up for primetime games, and just kind of embarrassing yourself in front of the country and embarrassing yourself with everything on the line. Now, obviously, this wasn't a game with everything on the line, but this was a tremendous opportunity. And again, I don't think you can find 5 players that showed up. And I don't care what the final score says. We got destroyed. We got absolutely demolished in that game. And some very fluky stuff and some mistakes that the Niners themselves made kept that game moderately close. So you are now 6 games into your time as Seahawks head coach, and you are pretty close to the bottom at the moment. Like, the vibes are on the floor at the moment. Just to kind of highlight how rough things are at the moment, the Seahawks are currently 25th in points per game allowed. 25th, if that ranking sounds familiar, it should, because 25th was our defensive ranking in points allowed in 2023 and 2022. So we are right where we were before, and we are right where we were when we got our last coach fired. So as of this moment, even if you take a look at the collective, even if you include the good defensive performance against the Dolphins and the Broncos, we are right where we were last year. So you've got that going on. You've got, how about this? Let me hit you with this one. And people are going to probably take this the wrong way, but Pete Carroll was head coach of the Seahawks for 14 seasons, I think it was, right? 14 seasons. It was not until that 14th and final season that the Seahawks had a 4-game losing streak with Carroll as coach. If the Seahawks lose this upcoming Sunday to Atlanta, if they go to Atlanta and lose, then Macdonald will have his first 4-game losing streak, and it took less than 8 games. So that's kind of what's at stake here. And that 4-game losing streak thing from Carroll, I always thought that was a little overrated, because that wasn't what was going to propel you to going to the Super Bowl or going to the NFC title game or reaching the top of the league. That was just going to keep you from the bottom of the league. But it did highlight something that Carroll did have until the very end, maybe that last season. The team could get back up. The team could get back up from adversity. The team could rise above disappointment. The team could overcome losses. The team could overcome disappointments and find a way to at least claw their way back into the picture, right? The Seahawks under Carroll never won fewer than 7 games in a season. Now, one of those years they benefited from the 17-game schedule, but they never really bottomed out. They were never a terrible team. They were a bad team a couple times. And I think a big reason why that was, and again, this is not something that I place a ton of value on, because to me, this is just how you stay stuck in the middle. But he knew how to handle the downtimes, because he had experienced downtimes before, because he had been a head coach before at New England, in New York, in college, at USC. So he understood how to deal with and overcome adversity and work through bad moments. Macdonald doesn't have any of that. We don't know how he's going to respond to these low moments. And I'm going to put it to you this way. I've said this way before. I'll say it again. This is a really crucial week for Macdonald, and even though I'm very unhappy with the way the team has played the last couple weeks, I'm very excited to see what Mike does and how he guides this team over the next 6 days before Atlanta, because it'll show how he handles adversity. Because there's nobody else he can really turn to except maybe Leslie Frazier, right? Leslie Frazier's been in this league a long time. He's got a lot of experience. This is part of the reason why he's here, but Mike Macdonald doesn't have a John Harbaugh to look at. He doesn't have somebody above him that he can just go, okay, it's on you to steer the ship the right direction, right? He doesn't have, well, he had the other Harbaugh, actually, when he was at Michigan, right? Jim Harbaugh. He doesn't have somebody else who's like, okay, this is your mess you need to pick up. I'll be there to help you, but you're the head coach. No. When Mike Macdonald turns his head to look for who the head coach is, he's not going to find anybody except himself. He's the head coach. So how is he going to recover from this moment? Because, look, I don't think it's ever okay to play as poorly as the Seahawks have for most of the last 2 games. I don't think that's ever okay. But that doesn't mean I don't have any sympathy for the way the schedule's set up, with them having to play 3 games in, 11 days? Monday, Sunday, Thursday. I mean, that's really, really brutal. That's something that the NFL should probably never foist upon any team. So I'm not without sympathy to that. But guess what? Now, after that Thursday game, you got extra days off going into your next game, so that excuse is gone. So how are you going to use the extra time afforded to you? How are you going to figure out what is not working? Because right now there's a lot that is not working. The offense, it's scoring, it's moving the ball, it's putting up some numbers, but I don't think you can really say it's working all that well when they are dependent on the defense and special teams scoring points to make things competitive in these last 2 games. I've never had a cough linger this long, I swear. Do not know what is going on. These allergies will be the death of me. But anyway, this is a big moment for this coaching staff. And I'm very excited to see how they answer it. Like, you never want to see your team play as poorly as they have over the last couple of games. You never do. It's never worth it seeing that. But you know that these bad moments, these low moments will come for any coach that is a coach for an extended period of time. And learning how they bounce back and surprise you, because right now, I can pretty much guarantee you, if you were to ask a majority of Seahawks fans right now, like thinking Seahawks fans, a majority of them would say, "Oh, I expect to lose to Atlanta next week." And there were many, many moments in the Carroll era where the Seahawks were playing poorly and things didn't look good, and the thinking fans would go into a game against a good team and think, "Oh, we're going to lose that game. I expect to lose that game." And then Carroll would get them up for it. And they'd either win or they'd almost win. Happened over and over and over again. It was part of the reason why they were never allowed to bottom out. He would find a way to make them competitive in those really, really down moments. Macdonald doesn't have the same wealth of experience. He does have other things, though. Like this last week, he's had a couple extra days off to figure out what's wrong, to get some players back. And now we figure out how he used them. So it's a learning opportunity for him as a coach and also for us as fans. And look, the way I put it before is that there's nothing Mike Macdonald can do to prove that he's the right guy unless the team wins the Super Bowl this year. And that's not going to happen. Even if we had a great roster, like an elite roster, you'd be hard-pressed to win the Super Bowl with a young rookie head coach. So he can't prove it, but what he can do is provide evidence. He can provide evidence that he's the right guy for the job. Because there's a scenario, and this has happened before, where he will be the right guy for the job, but he won't be until many years down the line, possibly after the Seahawks have lost their patience with him. So this is a moment where even though things are spiraling out of control and some people are already kind of out on this season, he can prove that he can do this thing. So get the team back up, pick them up, find the areas that you can fix. You can't tell me this defense is so talent deficient that it's okay to be this poor. Over the last 3 games, the team has allowed, I think it's over 36 points per game. And not all of those points have been scored by opposing offenses. I know there was the blocked field goal touchdown, but that would put you at the very bottom of the league. Over the last 3 weeks, you have the worst defense in the league by a pretty wide margin. You can't tell me the talent on this team justifies playing that poorly. So, figure something out, fix it. And give me some pieces of evidence that you are ultimately the right guy. I'm not asking for proof right now. That's unreasonable. There's no way he's going to be able to prove it. There's not enough opportunities in one 17-game season to prove that you're the right coach. But this is a great moment for him to prove that he has evidence, that he has concrete results that will back up the belief that he is the right guy. So it's a pivotal moment for these Seahawks. They're not going to be great this year, it doesn't look like. Maybe they're not even going to be all that good. But, look, there's plenty of examples in NFL history of great coaches that had bad first seasons. People bring up Carroll winning 7 games his first 2 years. Shanahan won 10 games total his first 2 years combined. Andy Reid won 5 games his first year as a head coach in Philly. A lot of examples of that. Most of those coaches took over terrible teams. Most of the time, they actually still showed improvement over the previous season. So, look, you will never catch me saying the Seahawks made a mistake firing Carroll. Like, to me, that conversation is done and over with. They were right to move on when they did, and I fully supported it. But you look at you look at a moment like this, and you have to remember, this team did win 9 games last year. This is not a terrible team that Mike Macdonald is taking over. Mike Macdonald, if he goes like 5-12 this year or something, that is a fair indictment on him, and people will be correctly criticizing him for that he took over a team that won 9 games each of the previous 2 years. The coach lost his job because they decided that's not good enough, and then he took the team backwards by a significant amount. So there's some pressure on too, but hey, going to be a fun week. I really want to see what Macdonald does in this moment. See you guys later.